Alright, so don't worry about the title. It's not going to be me ranting for several minutes about, oh my god, the jungle is dead or any of that stuff. No, it's honestly pretty factual. Whether or not it's a bad or a good thing, yeah. So, it's mostly going to be a historical talk because essentially a long, long time ago, Riot Su, one of the original creators of League of Legends, went on record to say that he really hates the jungle. He really wants to remove Smite. He just did not want the jungle to be a thing. Okay, so first off, Dota, the game that this game is based on, honestly, and where Su originally came from, has a jungle, and it's not really something you jungle. Like, you could occasionally go in there and take some monsters if you're behind, or you just want some extra gold, or you stack it for some mad ass gold. But there were champions who could go in there at like level 1 and clear the thing and just, be there for a while or for an entire game, like in some games I play. So yeah, they kind of wanted that to be the thing. And in fact, in season 2, they sort of try to bring that back by nerfing the jungle camps down to a point where laners could possibly get them. And we had this really weird thing where the jungler was just not entitled to his camps after the first clear, which is really sad. Anyways, yeah, they did not want the jungle to be a thing, or he didn't want it to be a thing. He didn't want it to be a lane that existed because he felt that the lanes would sort of solidify. We'd have a mid, top, and bottom lane and a jungle lane. And if it proves to be too effective, if it proves to be the best way to play, it's going to get stuck there. And they might have to design the game around it. And guess what? It's true. Just like the mobility meta, just like summoner spells, just like runes and masteries, the game had to be designed around that. Every champion that came out had to be weighed against these things, and they still kind of have to. The keystones, the keystones and masteries from last season and the keystones we have now, they kind of force champions to be balanced around those. Whether, a new keystone comes out and then everyone tries it out and they see that this person's too broken with it or this champion's too broken, they either nerf the keystone and nerf that champion down. We've seen it happen tons of times already. Yasuo got, I think, if I remember, Yasuo got a keystone nerfed some years ago. I think that was the Warlords one. Whatever. Anyways, so yeah, Season 0 jungle was very volatile because it was the wild, wild west of League of Legends, right? Tons of things were just everywhere, bugs too. And honestly, a lot of junglers there, or a lot of champions, proved themselves to be way too stupid. Jungle Gragas, for instance, if you had Red Elixir, to start, you could two-shot somebody. You could two-shot most supports. So I think Soraka died in basically one shot. And tanks will take 3 shots, but whatever. Essentially put, yeah, it was pretty volatile. You had a lot of high case, extreme, powerful champions. So, and then near the end of it, they started nerfing and making changes, and the game's balance was sort of solidifying for whatever they wanted to be at that time. But they realized that the jungle was going to be a thing, or it had become a thing. And they released 2 jungle champions at that time, which was Nocturne and Trundle first. And they kind of decided, okay, so we're gonna have the jungle be a thing, and we don't want that. So in comes season 2. In season 2, they nerfed the camps down. They nerfed the camps down in order to allow tanks to exist instead of just pure bruisers and assassinate champions, and allow the laners to at least be able to take the camps without too much assistance. Because if you don't remember, Season 0 jungle was murderous. It would beat the living shit out of you. Season 2. My God, that was like fluffy cakes and marshmallows. It basically tickled you. In fact, you didn't really even need jungle items to clear. You just bought gold items and you just kind of went about your way. Though, at the time, tanks and supporty junglers were the dominant ones because they didn't need gold, because the laners were taking that gold. So you just kind of walked around with Oracle's elixirs and gold items, and you were just this walking pink ward. And it was mixed results. I personally didn't like it because after a while you just kind of played the same damn thing all the time. But I could say I was a bit of a rebel, and I played Jarvan when people didn't want to, and I played Darius jungle, which was hilarious because he didn't need items, but he could dunk your ass. So yeah, at that point, they kind of realized the jungle was still having too much of an impact, because it turns out having a guy that just walks around sweeping wards and being your beefcake CC machine is just kind of, frustrating. You activate a champion who wouldn't survive a lane and has all the supportive capabilities, you're going to have a bad time. So Season 3 came in with an attempt to weaken the junglers by giving them a dedicated jungle item. Essentially, in season 2, 1 and 0, you could buy like longsword, you could buy some health items with super potions, cloth armor, and it would get you jump started on core items, plus just give you some good ass stats to deal with other junglers and champions. Because remember, junglers were designed to deal with the jungle, and therefore they were already pretty damn strong. But give them an item on top of that, and they could beat most laners straight up. So with the jungle items, they took away all of that stuff, and you essentially were throwing away your first bits of gold to buy yourself an item later on. Essentially, in a way, what they're doing right now with the jungle experience, they dump the beginning the beginning experience you have, and then pick it back up later, just so you wouldn't be so strong in the beginning. And it didn't work. Because again, junglers are just designed really strong. They made the camps stronger and such, but the jungle items proved to be very effective for some champions, and it made the jungle diversity explode. Of course, there were still some strong champions, but it wasn't too far off. You could get away with a lot of things, and it was really fun. Jungle bruisers, jungle tanks, and some AP junglers existed, support ones existed. It was a pretty good time for a jungler. Not so much for everyone else, but again, the jungle's impact, like I said in the last video, is very difficult to curve. And then in Season 4, the jungle items still persisted, but at this point they were making changes that stretched it out, so you did have way more outliers in the really good side. Diversity wasn't completely squandered, or squashed, but it was very obvious you could be making better choices now. So that's when we started seeing, Riot make some more sweeping changes or attempt more things to try to figure out what they wanted with the jungle. And as the seasons progressed, we saw tanks come back, and everyone was excited about that, including Riot. But then they realized that, just because we got rid of jungle assassins and people weren't getting one shot, people were now sort of just getting to really, getting overwhelmed and crowd control, so that's not fun. So then they bring the bruisers back, and then they bring the assassins again, and they get these supportive champions. It's a cycle. And as a jungler, you're kind of used to doing this. And like right now, even if it does kind of suck, you kind of expected this to happen at some point. Riot would make some changes like they do every beginning of the season or in the mid-season, and you just sort of adapt to it. Again, though, it just sort of happens that this occasion is very reminiscent of Season 2 and squashes the jungle diversity quite a bit. But I'll give Riot some trust that maybe they're going to make changes to, bring back some junglers, nerf a bit of the strong ones, and we'll see what happens. Because right now, level 2 ganks are really frustrating. Just jungle diversity is very narrow because you want to fight for the scuttle or for the counter gank. Tanks are kind of just snubbed out, so it's just a little bit of a sticky or bad situation. But anyways, like I said, Riot never really wanted the jungle to become a complete thing, its own thing, because they knew it was going to be impossible to balance. Everything affects the balance of the jungle. Like, bring in new items, it might just make some junglers dumb because it's an item they can rush towards, and, things get a little bit crazy, and then they come into prominence because you activated this champion who wasn't supposed to be activated this way. We've had instances where laning champions who have like these matchups that keep them in check end up going into the jungle where they won't have that to worry about, and they kind of become a huge problem. And stuff like that has happened several times. And, like I said, new items or changes to some laners that can't really roam anymore, or can't do some sweeping invades, bring up upon other champions, that kind of stuff. It's just a huge ass cycle. And right now we're just in the kind of the worst of it. But again, I am hopeful, or praying, you can do both, hope and pray, that Riot fixes this. Because if you haven't noticed, I haven't really been playing too much or at all, or making that many videos, because it's very boring. I watched people play it, and I watched my friends play it, and I'm not fond of this, where it just kind of nuked a bunch of my favorite champions, and we're just kind of forced to, play the game Riot wants us to play. And that's the thing, though. This is the eternal curse of the jungle. It's just too impactful. given if you give a meta enough time, it's gonna solidify itself, and you're gonna get the outliers who are the strongest. You're gonna get the lanes that either counter each other or do well against each other, so they just kind of gridlock the lane, and nothing can truly really happen. So you need that person or that champion to interfere, and the jungler, whether they are bruisers, whether they are supports or tanks, will be that champion. Whether they interfere by killing the opponent, by pushing their tower, by putting wards everywhere to keep people in check, whatever. History has shown that the jungler is kind of the only one who really will do a lot of things or can do a lot of things to affect the flow of the game. And as a result, that makes it the easiest or the most obvious target for balance changes. And don't worry, this will be my last ranty video. I'll get restarted on the team battles, on other kinds of videos and streaming and such. I'll start that up again. Anyways, I just wanted to make my position on this a bit more clear, and as someone who's been playing this game from the beginning and has seen the jungle in its highest and its lowest and its most overpowered and in its least impactful, I can say that we're kind of on a downturn right now, but give it enough time and either Riot will revert it, buff it up, change something, make it more fun, or it will progress to a point where the nuances of it are figured out and it becomes more fun naturally with itself. Hopefully, either or happens in a positive way.